Okay, we're live. I'm Ralph, Precious
I'm
Gorgeous. I'm here with
Jason.
Jason Boxer, and we'll do it live. So now we're gonna argue about veganism. I will be very honest. I have a position,
You have no
so
position.
you just hit me with what you got, and I'll see what happens.
Okay, cool. So my position is that we cannot, there's no ethical way to eat animals because we are causing them suffering by farming them and by eating them. And we have to decide how we can know that something is suffering, right? We decide like what matters to us morally, right? Um, how do we extend our moral consideration is the big question here, right? And should animals
Yes.
be included within that or not? And we can think through like what are the kind of characteristics that we can choose to decide, okay, you're in the moral consideration gang or you're out, right? We got to choose like what like do we want to respect the moral rights of rocks, for example? We can say probably not. But do we want to respect the moral rights of like a goat or a hen or whatever? And we have to decide how we have to pinpoint how we make that decision. So there's a vegan philosopher guy. His name's Peter Singer. He does lots of all kinds of philosophy stuff, and he can be kind of controversial sometimes.
Hmm.
He says we should make that decision based on something's capacity to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
Says we can't make it based on intelligence. You'd think like we might want to do that, and we could like very conveniently include all humans and exclude all animals. But then, for example, we're going to run into the fact that there's a great variety of intelligence levels within the human community, and there are actually probably humans who, in the ways that kind of like ableist notions allow for, demonstrate probably less quote unquote intelligence than maybe some non-human animals. People with really severe disabilities of a variety of types and varieties deserve all the moral consideration in the world. But if we made some metric in which intelligence in the traditional sense was the thing that gave moral consideration or not, we might end up excluding them. Uh, so we can't use intelligence, and we kind of run out of characteristics that only include humans and exclude all animals if we're going to try to pick them. We could try a few other if we want to give other examples. But I'll
Mm-hmm.
say one more thing and then I'll put a period on it. What we should really be considering is why it would matter if we respected or didn't respect someone's morality, someone's moral rights. And it seems makes a lot of sense to me, and it's Singer's argument, it's not mine, that the thing that should matter is whether or not they can suffer because of our actions. That's why we would not
Okay.
want to include a rock, and we would want to include something that could suffer. Most biologists and people who study animals and all that junk tell us that most mammals and most of the animals we actually eat on a regular basis do have that capacity to suffer. That was a lot.
Um. No, no, no. It wasn't a lot at all, and I think all those points are sound to me. I am not a vegan. I have been sometimes in my life a vegetarian. The reasons were totally selfish, just because I wanted to feel healthier and maybe lose some weight, but never the considerations of the animal suffering are not at this point. Personally, they're not like a great concern for me, but I do understand when they're a great concern to others. And
For sure.
um, what was the other? And I am, I'm an artist living in Brooklyn, so I'm at least thinking like, okay, if I'm gonna eat an animal, try, and I mostly fail. I want to try to eat something that's been like properly and humanely raised and like is organic, and at least if this thing had to suffer to eat it, best case scenario, if I can afford it, I want to know that it at least had a good life. That's where I sit.
For
Um,
sure.
let's start with a very shallow and beginning, like simple argument, which is any of these animals, if they had the choice to eat me, would probably eat me, uh,
Uh,
sustenance, and that would be I couldn't lament that. It would suck if getting them to eat me, I had to suffer for a long time. Let's say months or years, as they were getting ready to eat me, farming me, or however you put it. But if I'm gonna die within 24 hours or so, and they eat me, it's what it is. I'm a part of. I'm just as much a part of the food chain as anyone. As a matter of fact, when I die, uh, worms are going to feed on me, and then
Mm.
trees and flowers and will grow off of my decomposing body. Humans are the most intelligent, you could say. We have a lot of power. We have a lot of agency. We decide the fate mostly of other animals. If I run into a mountain lion, I'm not deciding much. It's deciding what it wants to do with me. But for the most part, we're deciding, and so the sort of the moral quandary, or whatever you want to call it, the moral weight falls on us to make an ethical and responsible decision.
Mm.
I but I think of myself, and it's one thing if I'm committing to, or I don't care. I mean, all around, I'm doing it wrong. I'm not a vegan. I'm not even. I can't afford really to make as a non-vegan. I can't afford to make the choice ethically and like eat the way that maybe the natives would have eaten, where like I honor the food and I use every part of it, and I'm making sure to do that. So I'm just eating burgers and whatever, and just sort of I don't know, not thinking that much about it.
Yeah,
So I don't know. Where do we go from that?
that's a real the question about if some animal was going to eat you. I like that question a lot. I
Mm-hmm.
see a lot in that. So you mentioned if it was like the very end of your life or whatever, and they were going to eat that. I feel like
No,
that's
no, no, right now. If it happened right
right now,
now,
straight up right now.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Just an eagle came and just took my eye out and was like, and I'm
Shoo.
dead. And
Yeah.
some other stuff is gonna eat me. Yeah.
So I see in that question the argument, maybe you're like, not that you're defending, but it like is inside of it, of like, I won't do a bad thing to you if you won't do a bad thing to me, kind of thing. Like if the eagle's gonna eat me, I should probably be allowed to eat it, right?
Let me be sure if that's what I'm saying. I don't want to
If
adjust that. I
if
just want
you're
to be
saying it,
sure.
we can just engage with it as an idea too.
Yeah. Let's just engage with it. Yeah.
Yeah, that I find fascinating. And we also hear you hear that argument a lot about like, well, a mountain lion is going to eat a gazelle in the wilderness. Like if it's
Mm-hmm.
unethical for me to eat a cow, why is that not unethical?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the if I'm not going to eat you, you don't eat me thing is like contractual, maybe we could call it, right? Like I'm not going to punch you in the face, you're not going to punch me in the face, and that is how we get by in society, and that's how we survive. I think we also have lots and lots though that we have to like we owe to society that we can't expect back in an equal way, right? Like we all should pay taxes so that schools can be good even if we don't have kids in those schools. Like I think
Okay.
we can't only make moral decisions based on what I'm going to get back if I'm going to get back equal from you. Right? Does that make some kind of sense?
Um. Let me gather my thoughts and make sure. Okay. Like it's just on good faith. Like I'm just putting this money up because this is the right thing to do. This is what
Yeah.
I would want. So it's what I'll do for someone else.
Yeah.
Even if I never intend to have kids.
I think you should do that. And we
Right.
as a society sort of do that, I think. I mean, we do. Everybody
Mhm.
pays. I mean, some people get around it and everything, but everybody pays taxes that go into schools.
Right.
So we can't only make a moral decision based on that, like tit for tat kind of thing. Um, where else can we go from this? Uh, the thing about a gazelle or whatever, a mountain lion eating gazelle, right?
Hmm.
That I think takes on its separate ethical question because of the availability for sustenance and nutrients and blah blah blah, blah that those animals have. right? And I would make this argument for a human being too. If you are stranded in the woods and you've lost all contact with society and you can't cook yourself tofu or whatever,
Yeah.
I think like go right ahead and don't die and eat what you can eat. Like there were we have
Yes.
a kind of ethical thing of like, am either I gonna die or is this animal gonna die? And we would kind of have to get into the weeds of why it's like I think it's okay for you to die, for you to live instead of that animal. But I mean, I don't think veganism, people shouldn't get confused with like animal life is always 100% of the time more important than human life.
Wait. So people, wait. So you're saying that that's how veganism, that how vegans think, or you're saying that that is what people think of veganism, that they think.
I think some people do, right? That like that all vegans think care more about animals than they do about humans.
Well, I would say that I think that is probably true of some vegans, and I think that is true of maybe not even just vegans, but a lot of this goes into maybe a separate issue, but I do think it's interesting, which is that like
For
I
sure.
do think that people tend to idealize animals and put them up over human beings because
Mhm.
human beings are difficult to love and animals are very easy to love because you cannot ever prove any intent. They cannot really ever hurt you. They cannot even really ever betray you because even if they do, you just chalk it up to the fact that they're an animal. But human beings, you invest so much in them that it really can hurt. You know, someone who has no reason to hurt you that you've done everything for can knowingly, like with full intelligence,
Ugh.
disappoint you, turn their back
Yeah.
on you, betray you, or even worse, have intent to hurt you.
Yeah.
Someone who has completely no reason to. So I think for that reason, people are very much like, oh, the animals. I love the animals, and I hate people. And I don't often respect that choice because it's very easy to love an animal. You know,
I
they
couldn't agree
are,
more.
for all intents and purposes, dumb. So and easy to pity in a weird way, even though why are we pitying them? They might be all happier than we ever will be. So
It's like unconditional
once
love,
we're made to
from a
suffer,
dog.
yes, they give you the love no matter what. But it's like with a human being, you're constantly, you really have to make the choice to love them whether they love you or not. You
Yeah.
know, and so I don't know if this has to do with veganism, but I sort of push back against that idealism and that sort of that idealizing of animals, and that animals are so wonderful and humans suck. Like I
Totally.
don't abide with that. I think that's an opinion that is fair, but I think that is the realm of like a brittle spirit. I think that in also even reflects like a lack of self love, because if you are not able to love people just because you are as flawed as any other human, so they would say to me, you are not able to love yourself.
Mm.
Um, but that maybe that's a separate thing. But I just, yeah, I really would push back against any, like, I understand not wanting animals to suffer, and if I could, how do I put that? I mean, it's a real con. Animals are suffering and being treated badly so that I can eat them,
Hmm.
and the alternative would be for me to eat a plant-based diet, which I have considered, and I still do consider. Um, but I tell you, if I could have an Impossible Burger and I know it was healthy for me and it tasted just like a burger, I might start down that road.
Uh-huh.
So I'm not against veganism, but
Yeah.
as it stands, and I want to address your last point, which is, um, yeah, if you're out in the wilderness by yourself, naked, and you can't eat, go ahead and eat. Or even, would you say then, if a homeless person is on the street and they can't get
Mm-hmm.
anything to eat, and you hand them the burger, then they should just eat what's going to keep them alive?
100%, I think.
Okay, okay, but ethically, you would say most people who can afford it, um, should eat well. Here's what I would posit to you: if I economically was doing a good deal better than I'm, and great vegan options could would be afforded to me. Unless you're someone who naturally really loves fruits and vegetables, which I am not,
Mm-hmm.
um, could eat well, like a really good vegan diet. If I could afford it, I probably would be way more inclined to do it. But someone who lives on the like, it's a miracle. I feel like each time I get a meal, even into my mouth, I don't have that much choice. I'm just like, you know,
For
I'm
sure.
poor. I don't have much. What am I going to actually enjoy eating that is accessible to me? Which I could see from certain points of view, selfish and lazy. But I do think that that is sort of where I'm coming from, like in a very practical level.
I think you have to be super practical about this kind of stuff. And it's even practical in the like all of that academic stuff I was talking about, the like philosophy people. They Peter Singer comes out of this school of philosophy of utilitarianism, which is like you literally are you can't quantify it in exact numbers, of course, but you're trying to quantify up which if I need to make a decision. I want to make the decision that prevents the most pain and enables or like promotes the most pleasure and flourishing and stuff. So they try to like to count those things up in however the ways that they do. I'm sure they're really convoluted and whatever. To go back to your example, it would seem to me that if someone could not afford to feed themselves right, and but by having a vegan diet, they should feed themselves right. They should be able to, they should eat what they can financially. You know,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
it to me. I mean, obviously, it's in different sort of level of intensity, but that's like a similar situation to being like, I'm out in the woods, I don't have anything to eat. I got to eat the deer that died next to me or whatever. You know.
Yeah,
So that also applies to the stuff of like when are we that loops back to like humans versus animals when we have to choose between the two or like one being more important than the other. It's like we're counting up the moral needs of these beings, these animals. We're not just making a an arbitrary decision based on species.
right. Yeah.
I sort of went off on a weird direction though. You were saying a lot of interesting stuff there.
Well, I think here's my contention. That
Yeah,
basically and plainly, to I don't care for fruits or vegetables.
for
When
sure.
I eat them, 80% of the time I'm eating them, it's because I know I should, because I don't want my body to go to shit.
Yeah.
But if I could, I would just eat meat and ice cream. And
Boom.
that's what I would eat if I could just eat what I wanted. That's what I want to eat all the
Yeah.
time. Um
Oh, can I say
and
something?
yes, please.
So I think it is like one of a great. It's such a profound shame that we all, and I mean, I see it as a reality too. We all understand veganism to be like chic, prohibitively expensive, a fad for like liberal white people with college degrees and stuff. Like it's been co-opted that way by fancy smoothie joints and by like I don't know, like how many of the vegan restaurants in New York are like extreme luxury, fine gourmet dining and stuff.
Yes,
Like
yeah.
that to me is like these people have twisted what was a movement for good into something that they can get money from, you know?
On the opposite end of that, where I
Yeah.
live in Bed-Stuy,
Hmm.
there's two pretty nice supermarkets. But you go a couple blocks in any direction,
Hmm.
depending on the neighborhood and how many white liberals live there, especially the part of Brooklyn that I'm from, East New York, I mean, they are veritable food deserts. You can
Hmm.
barely get um, good omnivorous food or carnivorous food. Forget vegan food. I mean, fresh anything. I mean, it is unheard of.
It's like
It is.
bodegas and
Yeah. Would say that
about it.
again.
It's like bodegas and that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, not even like there's levels of bodega, and these are the worst. Or like supermarkets where it's just like paltry, and like if you would go and look at the produce, you would almost laugh at it. I mean,
Mhm.
and not only are the people there of lower income, they're just eating what they can to survive. There's not
Totally.
much nutritional education, and then it's a life of like you're talking to somebody who like this is my lifestyle. And this is what it's been probably for I don't know how long we've known each other. I think maybe we're interns at the same time or no.
Yeah, maybe like 7 or 8 years.
Yeah. So okay. So we've known each other quite a few years. Like, and to this point, from when you knew me till now, it's maybe changed a tiny bit, but this is basically how my life works. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't play video games. I have almost nothing that I would spend money on, except for like I watch movies, but I'm an actor, or I like go see a show, and then really the only thing I've ever said I'm going to indulge and spend money on is eating. So I
Mm.
don't cook at home that much because I'm always out running around. I don't really like cooking, and like that's the one thing I'm gonna do. I'm gonna eat like the thing that I want to eat the most. That's the one thing I'm gonna spend money on, and everything else goes to like Metro card, bills, rent. That's the only thing I spend money on. So for I can imagine for and I make a decent I mean, I don't even make a good living. I live a very Spartan lifestyle, so I can spread it out well. But like, I can imagine for somebody living in the projects who maybe even didn't go to college, who maybe even isn't friends with a bunch of artists and can do cool art stuff. Like you got a city job or worse, and you're just there, and you have very few pleasures in life. You get to drink a beer, you get to have a burger or a chopped cheese. You get to, you know what I mean? You get to, what, or you get your egg and cheese in the morning. Like I, in pleasures, if like one of your few pleasures is eating meat, I feel like it would be hard pressed for
Mhm.
me to don't go to Dallas barbecue, don't go to Kennedy's fried chicken. I'm gonna take also this from you. Not to say that there's not good. I mean, you can't have ice cream. You're gonna have ice cream now. You got to learn to enjoy like cashew ice cream or something like whatever it is. Like, uh, and it's not that this is impossible. I feel confident that, especially if I was raised on it, but even now, I could wean myself and learn to really flourish and enjoy a vegan lifestyle. But I do not think that I could, with my palate and what I enjoy eating, that would be afforded to me at my economic level, a way that
Sure.
like I wouldn't just start to hate it and resent it.
I think that's all. I mean, there's no arguing against the what you just laid out. Like, especially for the white liberal chic movement that veganism is. So unfortunately, for that movement to be like, "Hey, people in the projects, we're going to tell you what you should and shouldn't eat," that doesn't make any,
Shit. Yeah.
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And I can't even I don't entertain the notion at all that I understand the struggles of someone like that. I've lived all over New York City in places where fresh food was more and less accessible, like
And you've been a vegan like maybe most of your life?
I've been a vegan for it's coming on 6 years. So while I was in New York, when I was living in Sunset Park and stuff, I was a vegan.
Mm,
And Sunset
mm,
Park's decently stocked with supermarkets and stuff.
mm-hmm,
When I was at NYU, I was living in Greenwich Village, for a year, and that was a very different story.
mm. Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
uh, what I think is part of the sort of the other side of the coin of veganism being like branded as something prohibitively expensive is that the day in day out experience of living it is actually way more affordable and manageable than it seems based on just like not being super familiar with it and hearing the word veganism. Like at the grocery store, I imagine one of the most expensive items you buy is the meat you buy, right? Like that would tend to be more expensive than the box of spaghetti that you might buy or the can of beans that you might buy. Uh, Generally, and I'm speaking in broad strokes, like not knowing the details of all these things, like a vegan diet on a day in, day out basis, if you're just like going to your regular old supermarket, tends to be a little less expensive. Um, I have never been a cook guy. Like I've never been great about that. So
Okay.
I like, I mean, after doing it for a while in New York, I found like cheap and kind of like ways I could sneak in and not be killing myself with food budget, you know, and like I would eat like cheap and dirty Chinese food when I could. It didn't necessarily mean like the healthiest of vegan diets, but it did take extra work, is what I mean to say. Like
Mm,
I'm agreeing with what you're saying that
mm.
if you want to have a quick vegan meal and you're in the middle of Bed-Stuy or whatever or wherever, it might not be like you just go to the corner and you get your turkey sandwich. You know, you got to do a little more than that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never been able to reconcile that because it's already occupies a lot of real estate in my brain, you know, and what I used it's like the non-vegan option is there. Like I'll give you like a quick like small story of like what I used to do. Not even a story, but like these were my options. Like
For
my
sure.
first few years in Brooklyn, I would be super broke. I'd probably be spending the whole day looking for a job, and I was so broke I didn't have a computer. So when the one thing I would have, I would often instead of paying rent, I would do this. I would be like, it doesn't matter if I pay rent this month as long as I have an unlimited Metro card. Because if I
Mm.
don't have an unlimited Metro card, I can't even travel to a job to make rent. So no matter what I get, the first thing I have to buy is a Metro card.
Yeah.
Then, um, once I had a Metro card, and this is before I ever had a bike, but once I had a Metro card, what I would know is like, if I have any money at all, I have two options that I know I can do that will be affordable. There used to be, and the price still is, a $5 to $6 burrito that I can go to one place in Bushwick. I know I can get a massive burrito for $6 at this one place. So no matter what, and what I would usually do is, depending on if I had a computer, and more often than I couldn't afford a computer. So what I would do is I would leave my house in Brooklyn. I would go to the city and go to one of the Apple stores, and I would stand there for 2 to 6 hours and apply for jobs on the computers at the Apple store. And
Mm-hmm.
so while I was doing that, I would go, okay, when I get home, hold out until I'm the hungriest. I can either go down to Chinatown some for about $4. I can fill my belly, or I can go to Bushwick and get a $6 burrito and also fill my belly and eat my fill. At least for that, that will be enough food for the day. So, um, so
Yeah.
one could say you could have probably gone someplace and got some fruits and vegetables and made a soup or did whatever you wanted, like, or gotten a ramen cup and just eat three of those and like
Mhm.
and had a vegan option. But what I will tell you is I am a person who had $5 for the day. I
Mm.
had no other, and I was in an Apple store on someone else's computer, just applying for work, just walking around, wandering. I had no clothes. I had maybe some friends, but I had no money. I had nothing. And the only thing I could look forward to is I'm going to eat that chorizo burrito or that pork bun. That is the only thing I had to look forward to. And I
Yeah.
did not at the time, or don't still, but I may someday, did not have your conviction of like, no, I'm going to eat just the vegan options. And I also, and I want to ask you this, but I didn't, this is what I wanted to eat either or a sticky rice bun, or a chicken bun, or a hot dog scallion bun, or I wanted to have a chorizo, or what's the chicken enchilada, whatever kind of burrito. You know, what I mean, those were the few joys that I could look forward to besides Proud Jam. You know, uh, so that would be it. That's the what I would spend my $5 on that day. What
Totally.
I want to ask you also is, I know Anya's also like this. She can sort of take or leave meat. She
Mm.
eats meat, but she can take or leave it. There are people like that. There are people who like, I'd much rather have something fresh, have some nice fruit, some, you know what I mean? She's stocked with fruits and mangoes and blah blah. I can take or leave those things.
Yeah.
If someone were to tell me I could never eat an apple or a banana the rest of my life, I'd be like, hey, all right, can I have ribs? If I can have ribs and French fries and ice cream, I'm all good.
Uh,
I don't really need that stuff. But some people's predilection is like, either it's one of two things. Either I don't really care about food. I only put it in me so I can keep going. I really don't care to stop and eat anything. Nothing. There's no food that's really that exciting to me. Or my favorite thing to eat is fruits and vegetables. Nobody talks about that either. That the fact that there may be some vegans for whom this is bliss for them. This is the equivalent of getting to eat ice cream every meal.
It's true. Yeah. I don't think I'm like that. Uh,
Okay.
I will say with meat, I could take it or leave it. Like when I was eating it, although I'm sure I had experiences of like this is the best steak or whatever. I like
Right.
I I still regularly feel tempted to eat non-vegan things when I'm especially like I'm really hungry or something. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I want a milkshake or whatever, a non-vegan milkshake.
Yes.
It does get much easier. Those you don't just think about it as much as you get more used to it. Um, what was I going to say? Something else? Did that answer your question? Like it
Um.
wasn't. It wasn't like it wasn't a. There were many food items that I did not want to give up when I gave them up. Cheese
Okay.
pizza, for example, I really did not want to stop eating.
Okay. Got it.
Dollar
Got it.
pizza was my sustenance
Oh.
in
Oh, it's the best.
yeah,
It's the reason to move here. To me, Dollar
yeah,
Pizza is the greatest. Oh, so good.
yeah.
Yeah.
I did not
So
want.
strange it is, the better it is. But yeah, yeah. Um, okay. And
Oh, I should also say, backtracking to the accessibility and affordability of any diet, like that is a societal issue. That is a gigantic, flagrant, urgent societal issue that is a separate question from whether or not it's ethical to eat animals. I know I'm like cherry picking when we put it into a vacuum or not, but we can think of those two things as both issues. Those are both issues at the same time, right? Does that
okay.
fair to say?
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's something I feel I have a lot of, I lament a lot when I'm like, I'm um people living here. I'm in Bed-Stuy, and it's not that far. I mean, Williamsburg is right there, and
Mhm.
Clinton Hill or whatever it is it's not crazy far, but like I remember growing up in like Canarsie and Queens, like it didn't really occur to me to leave my neighborhood that much and go seek elsewhere. So it's like
For
unless
sure.
you're really searching for it, like better food isn't always there and accessible for you. And if you're not of the culture, like I can go into a creperie and feel like I belong, you know what I mean? But like if I'm just some kid who like doesn't know his dad and his mom didn't and I'm just from these projects over here, it may not be the same to me to walk into any of these places. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But I don't
100%.
imagine I didn't feel that way when I was a kid. That I didn't even know these places existed for one, But when I was a kid going to Manhattan, I would think, okay, I knew I was allowed to go in, but I was like, my parents weren't keen on going into those places. There was nothing they were going to explore there. They were adults, and I was just like, oh, I guess I'll go in there when I'm an adult. It didn't seem like it's a place for me now. So I just really all I'm trying to say is I just really had to to me. Didn't occur to me to do anything else. So I can imagine a lot of that carries on over into adulthood. And yeah, it's like food, not great food is all that was available to me. So when I know that that's the reality, that I just bear because I threw myself into debt to go to art school and sort of saw a different side of culture, like into grand debt, mind you, epic debt. But
Mhm.
like, so I came over into this hipster culture and got to see, oh, there's all kinds of in Trader Joe's and all these things that are so available to me. Like, yes, I learned also a part of me that's like, well, that forms that resentful voice that you're talking about like white rich liberals who are like, oh, why are you eating meat? You know what I mean? And I think to like, the 8-year-old kid who didn't know there was anything better than a hot dog, and a burger, and
Totally.
yeah.
Oh, I agree 1,000,000%. And it's a huge problem I mean, it's a problem in a lot of activist circles, right? Like, it's a bunch of rich white people.
Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, and that is what it is. That's not something I just try to. I don't use that just to damn people,
Oh,
but
of course not. Of course not.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't.
I don't mean to be harping on it either. I'm just saying.
No, no, no. You're absolutely not. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know where this falls. Like, I really like veganism is something that I really think where I sit with it now is like if I was making a decent amount of money, like if I was making, I mean, you couldn't imagine how not decent the amount of money I make is. It's
Mhm.
very paltry. If I was making somewhere, a decent amount of money, it's something that I would consider if it wasn't like, okay, here's something I'll put to you. As it is, me and my girlfriend, like every couple months, we go, we're spending a lot of money on food. Why don't we get home for the whole week and just take your food with you? You at home, put it in a Tupperware, take it with you. You got improv class, you go to work, you got improv class, then you have your you know what I mean? This plan, this magical plan that every young New Yorker thinks they're gonna stick to, and some do, but
Yeah.
this magical meal plan that you're gonna magically stick to. I'm gonna cook every Thursday night and every Tuesday morning, you know what I mean, and
Uh-huh.
have it ready. And it never happens.
I've never been able to do it.
No one can do it. There's like 3 people at CrossFit that can do it, and then nobody else, you know. And
Yeah.
so, so yeah, I always feel like if I could pull that off, if I had a lifestyle that accommodated that, then I probably could go vegan. But outside of that, at this moment, and it's like a level up. It's like, okay, when do I leave like donated and goodwill to IKEA furniture? Then when I go to up a little bit higher than IKEA furniture, it's the same way with food. It's like I'm
Mm.
now when can I level up so that I can get to the point where I could consider and try going when I have options that I could really enjoy. And I know there are really
Mm-hmm.
enjoy like but when can I get to that point? And I I wish that was the case, but sometimes there's the sheer fact of like having the sheer carnal taste for flesh and the sheer like this is what I was trying to say. Like I don't. One of my biggest worries and fears is that my diet and my meal prep begins to creep in and take over my. And
Uh,
I'm just like cooking for hours or figuring out how I'm gonna eat all day, and you know what I mean, and how do I avoid the meat?
totally, totally. Yeah, I mean,
It gets hard.
it seems insane to go vegan before you've gone vegan. It seems like I'm not gonna have eggs.
Yes,
I'm not gonna have mayo. Like I'm
yes.
not gonna have ice. It seems like
And I've been
literally
vegetarian for
alien.
for a lot. Like I'll often like it's not it's rare, but it's definitely not unheard of that I'll go. I've gone months without eating meat, and I
Yeah,
definitely will go not without eating meat products. I mean, I've never cut cheese and eggs, but
sure,
like I'll definitely go without eating actual, flesh. It's I've gone months and weeks.
totally.
Definitely go a day or so, every now and then without eating any meat. But but yeah, just going full vegan, it seems.
Mm,
Ah,
totally.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
freaky to me. Like I remember years before ever encountering this philosophy stuff. I got to take classes on at NYU. A whole nother
Mm.
put that all in a different privilege.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I remember having conversations with people who was like I don't care. This seems insane to me. And it is from like a day-to-day kind of social societal level. It's such a big jump. It seems extreme. I looking through the lens of what I want to do for the environment and for my body and for other beings who I don't want to suffer, I have trouble seeing it now from the not have trouble not seeing it from the opposite way of like it's so hard for me to look through all of these reasons not to eat animals and eat them. To
Mm,
like
mm.
swung around, not like I've lost my empathy or understanding for people who feel the other way.
Yeah, yes, yes.
I've maybe I can say it this way: I've like yet to be convinced by another person that the moral and environmental arguments and stuff aren't there. You know,
I mean, I think
obviously the day in day out financial realities of it come into picture, Um, just as they do with
Yeah.
like any decision you're trying to make that's more ethical, right? Like, I mean, the way consumer culture works is like the most readily available options are almost always the worst for us, the ones made in sweatshops. Like we, I mean, even like to interact with your friends on Facebook now, you have to be a profit source for this giant corporation. It's like
Mm,
they've gotten into every single inch of our lives and made it hard for us to make the right choice.
mm,
So we try our best every single time, and we're going to screw up. We're going to screw up on purpose. We're going to never be perfect, right? Uh, I try to tell people that about who are thinking about doing it. Like, go do it slow. Don't like let yourself off the hook. Like, don't decide like I believe this moral thing, and because it's hard to do, I won't align my behavior with it. I just don't
mm,
like decide that. But like, I
mm.
don't know, recognize that it can be slow and hard, and that you're doing your best. You know, utilitarian. You're making the choice, the best choice you can.
I mean, I'm with you. And this is controversial in itself. Like you were saying, the guy that you look to he has some controversial points. Like I'm a huge fan, and I would say even I look to him for guidance and mentorship. A guy named Russell Simmons. I don't know if
Mm,
you know who he is, but
yeah, yeah.
he created Def Jam Records, but he's since fled the United States because he got Me Too'd, which I'm sure is for good reason. But it was like
Am I mistaking him for someone, or isn't he a hardcore vegan?
no, he's a hardcore vegan. He's a
Yeah, yeah,
hardcore vegan,
yeah, yeah.
hardcore meditator, and very is very much like, yeah, don't eat. He's, I would say, the person who introduced veganism to hip hop,
Wow.
um, and really, try to get Oprah vegan and everybody, and like has written books about that it's unethical to eat animals, and here are the options that are available in the environments that we come from,
Mm,
neighborhoods that we come from. So,
that's
like, I
bold.
follow him and I listen to him, and I think he's a very smart and wonderful man. And the things, so I've heard a lot of these arguments before,
Mm,
and there's a lot of that in hip hop. From what I understand, Jay-Z and Beyonce are vegan, probably because of him.
I
I
didn't know that.
think, Damon Dash, who also created Rockefeller Records, is vegan.
Hmm.
Maybe the Locks, who are the hardest group in the streets, Jada Kiss, Chic Luch, and Styles
KRS
P.
One, right?
No, no, no. This is they're removed. They came in
Oh,
under
I'm
Puff
talking
Daddy.
separately. I
Yeah,
think
KRS.
KRS-One was pretty hardcore vegan, or at least vegetarian.
Maybe he might be. He might be. I don't know. It would not surprise me.
Uh-huh.
Um, it would not surprise me at all. If he was a vegan. So yeah, hip hop has vegans for sure. And um, I get it. Um, and when I say get it, in that I consider it, and I continue to consider it, and
For
I
sure.
may land there someday. But I also haven't found an argument if meat substitutes were readily available and tasty enough that I don't have to think about the fact that I don't. I'm also so and meat has the greatest textures, and so it's hard to beat them. And every time I've tried to eat tofu, no, not that's not true because I eat like mock duck sometimes. That's the thing. Like sometimes I go eat mock duck and I love this, but like not all tofu for some reason tastes like that. Which I don't understand why it doesn't. You know what I mean? Like
Uh-huh.
I, it's not. It's. This is a place or a way of living I can imagine myself doing for sure.
I mean,
But at
you're a very moral person. I think of you that way. I think
I
you
think
have,
I'm
you have
much less
great
moral than you
integrity.
think I am.
I think you have great
I don't.
integrity.
Sure. I mean, I love animals, but I also am very. That part of the argument is tough for me because I'm very like, if I just feel like we're all gonna die and be eaten by the earth,
Mhm.
and the suffering of animals, I don't abide that. But if like,
I mean to say, separate from the conversation we're having, I think
oh,
of you as a man with great character.
oh,
That's all I'm saying.
maybe I don't know about that.
I also want to be buried just straight up in the ground so I can be eaten by the worms. I think that's a sweet idea.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, if I'm already dead, throw me into a throw me at
Yeah.
some tigers. Oh, last question. I want to end
Tiger
on this.
King. Oh no.
Yes,
That's
talk
who
to
you're
me about
going, right?
Tiger King. Yes. What when you have you watched it?
I watched a little with my mom.
Can, are you just discussed? Like I was really struck and surprised because they didn't reveal to the end. Like when I was watching it, I was like, oh, I think these Joe Exotic. I didn't realize that he wasn't treating them well. And I'm also like, I don't. Do we know? Are we sure that to them it's not all the same? That wherever they're abiding, they're just abiding, and
Mm.
like them being in the cage with their buddies isn't the same for them being out in the jungle. Do we know for sure that they aren't enjoying it more? I don't think that's.
Mm.
Do we know that for sure?
So I took a class called Animal Minds that like pried at these like what is actually going on in their brains, you know? And
Okay.
the easy answer is we don't know for sure about anything in terms of like consciousness and all that stuff. Like the scientists or whatever, and also the philosophers, like it's very vague terminology. We do tend to know enough to give what like even academics will say like the benefit of the doubt with stuff. So we see like for example there's a thing called stereotypical behaviors, which is separate completely from the connotation we have of like racial stereotypes or whatever. It's
Right.
stuff
Right.
like in zoos where you can google like animal zoo stereotypical behavior. You'll see like I don't know, a penguin or something swimming back and forth, just boom 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 all day long, and which is a behavior that never ever manifests in the wild, and it tracks alongside like hardcore stress, like hormones being released and stuff. I'm not probably using all the right terminology, but
Mm-hmm,
it's like
mm-hmm.
these things that develop out of like as coping mechanisms. um, we see also like the range of movement that probably a species like a tiger would have in the wild being like exponentially larger than something like they would have in Tiger King, right?
Right. Right. Right.
And then like length of life and like I don't know, like probably physical like health, like their musculature and their weight and stuff. Like the tigers in Tiger King, I think it's blatantly obvious to everyone. Like the people who are overseeing them have no business caring for any. They shouldn't be responsible for any a human or a tiger.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean I can see that. I have no argument for or against. I don't know and I don't presume to even have an inkling. I
let
what
me my make. Oh, sorry. Go on. I'm interrupting you.
what did strike me was that there are more in captivity than there are in the wild,
I didn't.
and that's what the numbers seem to say. And um which is to me it's like, well, weren't we worried about these things going extinct? And so now uh, sort of breeding them, and I feel like probably at some point to help repopulate them. I'm not trying to make an excuse for it.
Mm-hmm.
I
No,
just
no, no,
really
no.
don't know the bare. Like I don't. I don't want to assume either way. I don't want to assume this is wrong or this is right or this is ethical and this is unethical. I don't know, and it feels hard to get an opinion that is not sensationalized or not. Because
Mm-hmm.
what? Okay, so when we were talking about these the liberals, the white liberals, what also um, stops me in my tracks and worries me is that like okay, here's the other thing with the animal people. It's like a little bit vain. It's a little bit selfish because we also get a kick out of feeling that we are altruistic, that we are good people. And so we will oftentimes reach, and this is what I wanted to add to that whole when they value humans over
Yeah,
animals,
yeah,
we reach for like, well, I care and I gotta fight for this. And it's like, well, yeah, but if I was homeless, you'd probably step over me. You know what I mean? Like, and so I can't, it's hard for me to parse out where there's pure integrity and pure altruism and pure goodness and where it's self-serving and you're so blinded by this mission and crusade that you think you're meant to carry out that you're not. It's just it just exists on this for your own to bolster your own self-image and your own self-esteem, and less for the actual cause. And
Mhm.
like, and like once it didn't bolster your self-esteem, you wouldn't care about it. And I'm not even saying that makes it bad. I just become curious about those things. You know,
I
we all need that. We
question.
all need that pat on the back or whatever it is to that gives us the extra edge or the extra motivation to go forward. You know.
Hmm. I Gosh, I think that's such a good question. I think inside that question is also the question of like, why are you so mobilized to protect turkeys when the homeless person on your street, you're going to walk right over them, or public schools in America recreate and reinforce all the inequality that they're supposed to get rid of, you know, like there's
And reinforce these systems of like terrible eating habits and like
sure.
cause this need for mass production of shitty food because it's cheap and it's easy to get to people, but really good food, vegan or not. It's like, well, if you don't have to treat these people well, you know you there's that if you don't have to treat these people well, there's no reason to kill yourself to get them good food because they can't pay what you want them to pay for it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm meaning to say there, like why animals and not LGBTQ plus rights, you know, like why animals and not
Mm,
whatever else it is. Um,
mm.
I Goodness, I don't know how to answer this without making it sound like I'm trying to justify me and that you should think of me as cool. Like in every single
I'm
way,
not here to
I am
judge,
the
man.
white
Go
liberal.
wherever you gotta go.
Let
Yeah,
me use myself. This will just sound insanely vain, but I guess I'm going to say it. So, like, I
let's do
spent
it.
the last maybe 4 months or whatever organizing for Bernie Sanders, and like,
Mm,
I
mm.
would like to believe that was an ethical thing. Since for the past month or whatever, I've been helping um, medical personnel get the protective personal equipment they need, like doing organizing stuff for that to get
It's
donated,
awesome.
stuff like that.
God
And I
bless you for doing that.
thank you. And I don't want, I'm not trying to make this to be that I'm cool because I'm so flawed and messed up all the time.
Yeah.
But I am able to do all of those things and be vegan as well. Like we, the question you asked has an assumption in it that being vegan is to the exclusion of doing other work for good in the world.
Okay.
Um, there probably is. I mean, we've already discussed there are like levels of privilege and access that allow you to make the transition, and certainly the transition is bumbly and takes time and care and effort. But I don't think it's we shouldn't think of it like if I'm vegan, it means I don't care about other issues, especially if the root thing of veganism is I don't think these beings who suffer, like I don't think suffering is good. Like that should be the same reason that mobilizes you to think that mass incarceration is like the great moral stain of our generation, that we need to save it, like we need to save the environment. Like if you're anti-suffering, if you're vegan, then you're intersectional or whatever the phrase is, you know? Like anyone who's like a vegan, I've encountered vegans who are like, I won't show up for human rights protests. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like they're
Mm.
so misguided. They're so misguided.
Oof. I mean, the sometimes we were talking about Tiger King, and I said I want to end there, but I'm going to end
Oh yeah,
here.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
If no, this is wonderful, and I'm so glad you wanted to do this, and I'm so glad you wanted to just jump into it.
Yeah.
Um, does it? How do you cope with? I'm a man, and you may or may not know this about me, but I'm a man you could probably call religious.
Right
I'm a man you would call religious, right? Like
right on.
I'm a Jesus guy, all this stuff, and it helps me in this way among many other ways. Is that it tries and helps me to keep. I don't think of myself as a smart man. I need things to be very simple in my mind, or I'm gonna lose track. I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna lose track very quickly. I like to say my lips read when I move, and I count on my fingers. Like I'm very, so things like the golden rule really helps me. Do unto others as you would, so because like I don't want to quote any scripture, but like in the Bible it says, Jesus says, if you know that one rule, you don't need like you basically don't need the Bible. Like that's all
Mm-hmm.
the rules, and that's all the rules in this one rule. Treat your neighbor as you would yourself. You know. Love
Absolutely.
God and treat your neighbor as you would say. And that's so helpful for me because I'm like, okay, good. Because I was not going to remember all those rules. I wasn't going to remember any of them.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I forgot most of them as soon as you told me. Okay. So things like that are very helpful for me. Do you get overwhelmed in trying to be intersectional? Do you get overwhelmed in trying and like where all your ethics overlap and how they conflict and move against and remembering every initiative and trying to, well, I want to help this, but I want to help this. And I see you perhaps as someone who cares about being socially activated and socially and ethically responsible and trying to contribute as much as you can in and trying to keep your side of the street clean.
Mm.
Does it get overwhelmed for you and I'm assuming if you don't have like a central thread that's ordering all of your ideologies, that's ordering them? And if you do become overwhelmed, how do you manage that? And if you don't, how does that work?
I should say first that I'm not immune to the like I want to look cool on Facebook stuff.
I
You know,
love it.
like, and I think I really, until I was organizing for Bernie, I like realized that most of the stuff I was doing was just me trying to look cool on Facebook. Like that was a big change for me, like actually knocking on people's doors and stuff and realizing. And I'm still so flawed and have a lot more to do, you know?
Wow.
Uh,
Yes, same.
but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Aren't we all overwhelmed by all the range of issues that we should try to be improving on and helping on
Mm,
and stuff?
yeah.
And then like you got to worry about like there's so many things I haven't even thought of that I'm doing.
Oh, yes.
So
Yeah.
screwed up.
Yeah.
Um, I mean that makes me think like I should avail myself of just I'm sure the endless amazing stuff that Jesus has to teach me because
Mm,
I don't think I have such a like a well executed thing that keeps me. I mean certainly the golden rule means a lot to me. Um, I think engaging because I led a relatively secular life. I mean I was raised Jewish and stuff, but we didn't really like it was all kind of like like you just go because your parents tell you to go and they're
okay.
them to go and stuff.
That reminds me of there's a comic who died in the past year. His name was Stephen Brody Stevens.
Hmm.
I didn't know him. He was an LA comic, but he said, yeah, born Jewish, raised Gemini. I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
that. Yeah, but go ahead. Yeah.
But I think I don't know if I had to answer that question right away, it would be yes and would be one part of it,
Oh, I
and
very
then
much relate to that.
and then I mean I just got to like engage with the philosophy stuff in a college class and like really think it through and stuff. So like I don't know how you succinct. I think Peter Singer calls it the principle of equal consideration. Is what he calls it. That like we should weigh, we should make our decisions based on if it'll create pleasure, pain or not, and like we should give all needs equal consideration. Um,
Mm, mm, mm.
that's I think you're raising a good thing for me that I could do day to day, like to keep myself more grounded. You know.
Yeah. I mean, what you're saying is right. I mean, it's part of like the secret. I don't even want to reveal it, but like I'm sort of playing off my own persona on Facebook, which I'm sure you see of me being like a little bit pugnacious and getting into a lot of arguments, which I really don't want to like. But I really want and hope for is like conversations like these where I'm just like I don't understand what is your perspective on it, and I will play devil's advocate mostly because I do have these questions, but also because I'm always like, yeah, but what about this side and what about this side? Because
Totally. I feel
like
like
you,
you have nailed me more with those. Like, but what about this?
but that's also like I'm not here to. You were saying is exactly right. We're all trying so hard just to get the little bit that we have right.
Yeah.
So I'm not. First of all, I'm not very smart, so I probably didn't even see the things that you're saying. I could have nailed you on. And then two, like I'm really my intention is not to anyone. Like I make a big joke out of like, let's argue. You want to talk some shit? Like I make a big joke out of that, but like just because I think it's fun and I think it's what people think I do, and like and what the side of me maybe sometimes wants to do if I get agitated. But like really, I just I love the places where we contradict each other and contradict ourselves, and I just want to talk about them openly, and it's why I'm a comedian, because that's what we do.
Mhm.
We can see all sides. We can see where we're bullshit. We can see where other people are bullshit, and we just go, everything's bullshit. This is crazy. Like, it's not that nothing matters, but we're all bullshitting. We're all barely making sense of any
Oh
of
yeah.
it.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's kind of beautiful if we can accept it about ourselves. So um, yeah, I don't know if we came into any consensus, but this was such a wonderful conversation,
Oh,
and yeah, I really hope things continue to go well. I don't know if, I guess you're working on Corona stuff now, but God bless you for doing that, and I don't know what the prognosis is for Bernie. I really hope
oh yeah. We'll see.
we'll see,
I
but
should say I'm only getting to do the Corona stuff because I started at Starbucks a couple weeks ago.
mm,
When they closed, they promised us 30 days of pay, and they've extended it. So I'm literally getting paid to do
uh,
nothing because got hired as a barista like 2 weeks ago. I just got very, very lucky.
yeah, man. Well, I super respect that, and I respect what you're choosing to do with your time. And like, even though you're trying to like not seek props for it, I think that man, take your props, because whatever you need to do to keep going and doing good work,
Hmm.
take them.
That's
You know.
mutual. That's mutual.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you, Jason, and I hope you have a I hope all continues to be well for you. Thank you for having this conversation with me.
Bye, man. Good to see you. Good to
All
talk to you.
right, all the best. Yeah, and that's it. We'll do it live. So anybody else wants to talk some shit, come on and talk that shit. Peace out.